So, you love the Horus Heresy, but the 28mm game isn't quite scratching that massive army itch. Enter Legions Imperialis, a game of sprawling formations, titans striding to war, and aircraft dueling overhead. In this video, I'll break down exactly what you need to get started with this epic scale system in 2026, and what the state of the game looks like right now. But before you start buying models, there's a few things that you should know about how the game has evolved since release. A spiritual successor to the second edition of Space Marine, originally released by Games Workshop in 1991, Legions Imperialis is an epic-scale wargame set during the Horus Heresy. It uses much smaller miniatures than Warhammer 40,000 or the Age of Darkness system, but what the models lack in size, the game makes up for in sheer scale. This is a system where you can finally play out true Age of Darkness conflicts. Regiments of infantry, columns of tanks, lances of knights, god engines dominating the skyline. If Adeptus Titanicus represents warfare at the level of God Engine duels, Legions Imperialis zooms out even further. Here you are not commanding a single maniple, you are directing entire battlefronts. Legions Imperialis places you in the role of a theatre-level commander, directing entire formations in pitched battles where brothers fight brothers and lives are a disposable resource. It scratches a very different itch to Adeptus Titanicus. Where Titanicus focused on maniples and engine duels, Legions Imperialis is a full combined arms mass battle system. Transports surge forward to deploy infantry, Terminators teleport onto key objectives, battle tank squadrons trade devastating fire with knights and titans. It brings together the entire panoply of the Horus Heresy in a way that previously required enormous apocalypse-scale games. And perhaps most importantly, this is not a game of single faction purity. As a Legionis Astartes commander, you may also draw upon the Solar Auxilia, the Mechanicum or even the Dark Mechanicum to support your core force. Legions Imperialis is a true combined arms battlefield. So if you're considering starting Legions Imperialis, here's where you should start. As with most Warhammer systems, there is a clearly signposted entry point, but what you buy first really depends on one simple question. What do you want at the core of your force? Legionis Astartes, Solar Auxilia, Mechanicum, or Dark Mechanicum? If you're leaning towards Legionis Astartes or Solar Auxilia, the clearest route in is the Legions Imperialis starter set. Retailing at £129 from Games Workshop and typically around £110 from independent retailers such as Entoyment, it contains everything you need to begin. The rulebook, dice, order tokens, templates, and a solid core of Astartes and Auxilia miniatures, including 2 Warhound Titans. It's also worth noting that the starter set is significantly more cost effective than buying the kit separately, and it remains the best value way to acquire those models. Now, slightly frustratingly, the contents of the box don't immediately form a fully legal match play list straight out of the gate. However, Games Workshop released a bonus formation on Warhammer Community, the Legion Astrani class augmented Spearhead, which allows the box to be split into 2 playable forces. In practical terms, this means you can split the set with a friend and each walk away with a legal formation to start learning the game. Strictly speaking, adding a Warhound to each force pushes you beyond the allies restriction in match play, but if your goal is simply to learn the system, that is not something I would worry about too much early on. In total, the contents of a single starter set sit at roughly 1600 points if organised into 2 Astrani formations. Realistically, the best route in is to find a buddy who wants the opposite faction. If you want Astartes and they want Auxilia, perfect. Buy 2 starter sets, split them appropriately, and double up on the army you actually want to collect. If however you are drawn to the Mechanicum or the Dark Mechanicum, the route in looks slightly different. For the Mechanicum Combat Force box is the most straightforward entry point. Retailing at £105 from Games Workshop or closer to £90 from independent retailers, it provides a fully legal Mechanicum force of roughly 1400 points. Just like the starter set, the Combat Force box is more cost effective than buying the included kits individually, making it the most economical way to build a Mechanicum core. Add the standalone rulebook, which also includes the required order tokens at £40, and you're looking at a starting cost in the region of £130 to £145 to get playing. Dark Mechanicum is currently a little less convenient. There's no dedicated starter box for the constructs, meaning that you would need to purchase individual kits. However, the Mechanicum Combat Force makes an excellent infantry foundation, and I would recommend learning the system with infantry before diving into the more exotic constructs. You may eventually build out a force comprised entirely of Dark Mechanicum engines, and that is absolutely viable, but for learning the game, the Combat Force is the most cost-effective foundation to build from. So, you've got the rules, you've got some models on the table, now what? In this first year alone, 3 expansions were released. These expanded the core rules, introduced new detachments and factions, and added additional game modes and narrative missions. As you might expect with any new system, that period of growth brought a little bit of rules bloat and inconsistency. The first major FAQ from Games Workshop addressed that directly. It introduced clarifications, point adjustments, and perhaps most importantly tightened the core rules. In my view, it was one of the more positive FAQs we've seen in recent years. It didn't just patch problems, it genuinely refined the system and added several quality of life improvements. If you're starting in 2026, learning the current FAQ is absolutely one of the first things you should do. And the good news is, it's completely free. As for your next purchases, this one is optional. If you prefer physical books over digital references, then you may want to pick up the Liber Strategia. Retailing at £40 from Games Workshop or around £34 from independent retailers, the Liber Strategia consolidates all published attachments and formations up to August 2025. It also updates points values, unit profiles, and special rules where required. Whichever faction you've chosen, it acts as a single up-to-date reference point and brings everything from the starter set and Combat Force boxes in line with the current state of the game. So why is this optional? Because we now have several excellent list building tools available. Platforms such as Legion Builder and New Recruit handle army construction cleanly, and most allow you to export or print your lists and detachment rules. If you're comfortable with those tools, you can function perfectly well without the Liber Strategia. That said, it's a substantial, well-produced volume, and if you enjoy having a physical reference on hand, it's a very nice addition to the collection. Following the release of the Liber Strategia, Games Workshop shifted to a journal format, similar to what we've seen in systems such as Warhammer the Old World. These journals are smaller, more focused publications and come in at a lower price point, around £17 direct from Games Workshop. Any releases from August 2025 onwards are covered through this format. Importantly, these are not mandatory purchases straight away. Each journal typically focuses on specific detachments, units, or factions. You can simply pick them up when they become relevant. Based on Games Workshop's previous approach, it would not be surprising to see periodic consolidation releases in the future, similar to what happened with the Liber Strategia, so it's worth keeping an eye out for larger collected volumes down the line. If you'd like a deeper dive into the contents of those journals, we've covered each release in detail on the Maximal Fire podcast, where we break down what's included and who it's most relevant for. A typical game of Legions Imperialis is played somewhere between 1,500 and 3,000 points. Once you've learned the basics, you will almost certainly want to expand beyond your initial force. For most players, the Combat Force boxes are the ideal first expansion. Legiones Astartes, Solar Auxilia, and Mechanicum each have their own Combat Force set. These boxes generally focus on infantry, transport, and vehicles, and importantly, they come in at a discount compared to buying the included kits separately. They also introduce some units which are not included in the starter set, giving you something new to experiment with, rather than simply duplicating what you already own. Retailing at £105 from Games Workshop or closer to £90 from independent retailers, the Combat Forces provide the most cost-effective foundation to build from. As a rule of thumb, many formations in Legions Imperialis really begin to shine once you own at least 2 infantry boxes, particularly for Solar Auxilia and Legiones Astartes. Certain detachments such as assault squads, terminators or missile launcher teams must be fielded in units of 4 or more. A single infantry box often won't provide enough models to run those as standalone detachments, meaning they end up being used purely as upgrades to tactical squads. Purchasing a second infantry set or including a combat force to your starter collection allows you to field these units properly and build formations that look far more typical of what you will see in a standard game. This is less of a requirement for Mechanicum, as a single combat force already provides a strong legal core. However, if you want to lean further into the cybernetic theme, a second box still expands your options nicely. For the Dark Mechanicum players, this is usually the stage where you begin adding constructs, units such as the Serperos, Erax or Sinslax, to give the army its distinctive character. Another route to expanding your force is to upgrade your Titan presence. Swapping out a Warhound for a larger engine is an efficient way to increase your points total with a single model. However, there is an important restriction to keep in mind. Unless your primary formation specifically allows Titans, as some Mechanicum formations do, you are limited to spending 30% of your total points on allies. In practical terms, that equates to roughly 300 points per 1,000 points played. So while fielding a Warlord or even a Warmaster Titan is entirely possible, you will still need a substantial core force in place before you can legally include one in matched play. At this point, you may be wondering if there are any other books or accessories worth picking up. The good news is that there's very little in the Legions Imperialis range that could be considered redundant. Most of what remains available on the Games Workshop website still has some practical application. If you come across older supplements, such as the Great Slaughter and Devastation of Talon, or the Rise of the Dark Mechanicum, it's worth noting that their unit profiles and detachments have now largely been consolidated and updated in the Liber Strategia. However, those books still retain value in other areas. They contain narrative missions, expanded lore for the setting, and even additional game modes. One example is Titan Death, which allows you to run Titan-focused battles in a style somewhat reminiscent of Adeptus Titanicus, but with the Legions Imperialis rules framework and with the ability to field much larger battle groups. They also include rules for escalation campaigns, where players begin with small forces and gradually increase their army size over a series of campaign turns. This can be a particularly good format if your group is still building up collections. These books are by no means essential, but they remain worthwhile if you enjoy narrative play or campaign gaming. Just bear in mind that the unit profiles contained within them have now largely been replaced by the Liber Strategia. Another optional purchase is the Formation and Datasheet card packs. Retailing at £23.50 from Games Workshop, these faction-specific card sets provide quick reference detachment rules and unit profiles that you can keep on the table during a game, rather than constantly flicking through books. Earlier card packs were released alongside the initial expansions, so if you encounter those versions, they will now be out of date. If you do want to pick up cards, make sure you are buying the Formation and Datasheet card packs, which contain the current information. These are entirely optional, and many players will happily rely on books or digital tools instead. But for those who enjoy having quick visual references during a game, they are a nice to have quality of life addition. So where does that leave you? With a starter set, the Liber Strategia, and a combat force, you now have a solid foundation for learning how to play Legions Imperialis and building your first army. And right now is a great time to get involved. Many of the early quirks and rules interactions have now been addressed, and the detachments have been revisited and rebalanced, a necessary step for a game that expanded so quickly during its first 18 months. With new releases arriving roughly quarterly, the system is continuing to grow at a healthy pace. There is still plenty of design space for additional detachments, new units, and potentially even new factions in the future. No other Games Workshop system captures the scale and grand strategy of massed warfare in the Horus Heresy quite like Legions Imperialis. If you'd like to join one of the busiest Legions Imperialis communities in the world, hop on to the Maximal Fire Discord. You'll find experienced players, new hobbyists, and plenty of epic enthusiasts ready to help you get started. A link to the Discord can be found in the description below. And if you're building your first army right now, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We have guides, podcasts, and deep dives to help you get the most out of the system. Rally your forces, the galaxy is burning. How will you shape its future?